And Griffiths, you are an entertainment PR extraordinaire. You've worked with some of the biggest celebrities over the years. So tell me, is being a celebrity all it's cracked up to be?
See, that's a lovely introduction. Thank you. Can I put that on my LinkedIn?
You can absolutely. I will write you a
Transcribe it
little
afterwards.
endorsement as well.
Fantastic. Is it all it's cracked up to be? Yes, I suppose it is. I think if you want that kind of lifestyle, absolutely. If you like attention, if you like money, if you like nice things, if you like traveling to fun places, uh, yeah, 100%. If that's what you're looking for from life, it over delivers, I guess. It's probably the most luxurious lifestyle you can lead. But then it has its downfalls as well. And I think I mean, it's fairly obvious to say, but I think people do forget sometimes the pressures that come with being in the public eye, the constant scrutiny, and how much that, I guess, can take a toll on your mental health. So it's definitely a balancing act, but I think it goes back to intention. If it's something you want and you want very passionately, then you'll kind of reap the rewards from it. Uh, if it's something you're not sure about and you're kind of nervous about the implications, then maybe consider the consequences carefully.
Yeah. So you have seen all of these celebrities really up close and personal. So I'm really curious. What are some of their kind of hacks that they use? Because obviously, if these are the people that have got, sort of the dietitian on speed dial and the personal trainer and the personal shopper, these must be people with the most polished lives. So, have you seen any of this sort of up close and personal, any hacks that they have in life, any mantras, any dieting hacks that you kind of thought, oh, she's paying top dollar to know that. I'm going to do that too.
Yeah, definitely. I think it goes back to having the budget to have people like personal trainers, nutritionists, makeup artists. I mean, I definitely have picked up things over the years. I probably should have written them down. Not to sound shallow, but it's mainly, I guess, like beauty related. So it's products they're using, and that normally actually comes from the makeup artists. I think as a publicist, as you said, you're around celebrities for long periods of time. It can take sort of females up to 3 hours to get their hair and makeup done. So you're sat there chatting to them, chatting to the makeup artists. So obviously, naturally, this sort of stuff does come up in conversation. I can't think of any specific products off the top of my head, but I would say it tends to be things like primers or setting powders or setting sprays. Because don't forget, if you're on a photo shoot, the celebrities are under really severe, quite harsh lighting for long periods of time. So the makeup that's been done on them is intended to kind of stay under those conditions. So you often find that, yeah, they've definitely got good recommendations. So yeah, primers, setting sprays. Uh, and then from a diet point of view, yeah, to be honest, when we pull together sort of talent schedules, if they're going on a press tour, uh, obviously diet and food is kind of one of the first things we ask. Are any allergies, which is obviously quite basic, but kind of then are they, yeah, what are they avoiding food wise, for example? But I think I've always been most impressed by their sort of their commitment to routine and the ability to kind of stick to quite a regimented diet, particularly when you're traveling. Because I think when you're traveling as well, I don't know if you're like me, like you just want to eat everything. If you're staying in nice hotels, obviously you want to like order the best things on the menu. So I'm always quite impressed when they are kind of on a not necessarily a diet, but just healthy eating and just their commitment to kind of sticking to that.
Yeah, I've got to say, whenever I'm out of routine, I'll eat anything. So actually, being able to stick to a pretty regimented diet, regardless of what time zone or country you're in, is definitely commendable. All right, that's interesting. So then my other question would be, how much do you see of these celebrities actualizing? Because obviously if you're thinking they're at the top of their game, they're at the top of their career, they're on covers of magazines doing movies, have they got this secret? Is it all about actualizing and just believing, or is it something else?
Oh, I don't know. I think they're probably too busy to think about it, to be honest with you. I think especially if you're looking at sort of A-list actors, they don't stop, quite literally. They're jumping from either filming a project to promoting a project to they don't get downtime. They really like look at Wicked as an example, which I'm modelling just here, as you can see. Like that, they filmed for I think was it 3 years straight, or the prep work included. I think they filmed for a year solid, and then the prep work beforehand was sort of 2 years in the making, and then the press tour pretty much was 6 months straight. That's a long time. A lot of your life you're sort of giving up to take part in these projects. So I think if they've got time to stop and think about it, they're probably not living it. No.
Interesting. No, that makes sense. So I guess my next question really talks to our times, which is
Mm.
Is being a celebrity all it's cracked up to be? Because you think of kind of iconic Hollywood, Marilyn Monroe, all of those legends, or even, the early noughties where you kind of had, celebrities where there was paparazzi, there were limos, leave me alone, don't talk to me, all of that kind of stuff. Whereas now, celebrities, I'm like, actually, unless you're really top, is there that much money in it anymore? Are you really driving around in limos? Like, the celebrities I've seen, usually now, but maybe this is a London thing, they go on limo bikes, but then you get sort of a Rihanna on the tube and all of that stuff. So is there still this prestige in being a celebrity, or is actually the glamour kind of gone from it all now?
I think you're right. I think it depends who you are, probably, because I think Hollywood A-listers, yes, definitely still are accustomed to that lifestyle, and we've just obviously, well, we're coming to the end of award season. It's the Oscars this Sunday, so there's been a lot of furore, red carpets. So we've seen that kind of in the press of late. Again, particularly Ariana Grande gracing every red carpet with her presence, looking fabulous. Like, they are living that lifestyle still, but then there'll be that kind of mid-tier level of celebrities, I guess, who probably don't get the same level of attention. I would say it is all it's cracked up to be still, because I'm sure I read like a poll recently or something where they asked kids what they wanted to be when they grew up, and obviously traditionally it would have been doctors or pilots, and I think the top answer was celebrities or famous influencers. So it just goes to show we're sort of got a generation coming up that still very much so more than ever aspire to be these people.
And for those young people that do want to be famous from seeing all these celebrities up close and personal, what would you say to a young person if they said that's what they wanted to be?
I would ask them, why do you want to be famous? Because I think that's where it starts to become a little bit toxic. I think if you want to be famous as a byproduct, so you're extremely passionate about an art, be it acting, dancing, singing, painting, writing, if that's your passion and you want to be at the top of your game in that passion or discipline or industry, and then being famous is a byproduct of that, I think great, go for it, because you're aspiring to achieve in something you love. If you want to be famous for the sake of being famous sake, so obviously reality stars, great example. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, but I think just tread more carefully, I would say, because that type of career or type of celebrity tends to be more short-lived than, said, Meryl Streep, for example. And it comes with a lot more consequences, I'd say. Influencers and reality stars do get the worst side of fame, because they're opening up their lives more so than an actor would, for example, due to the nature of what they're doing. So they get even more scrutinized, even more trolling online. Um, so they're getting kind of a small slice of the celebrity pie, but actually getting more consequences from it as well.
Yeah, I've got to say that reality star life does not appeal to me. You're giving a look into your intimate lives. Like a lot of these A-list celebrities, we don't really know really what's going on. Only the bits the press can kind of tell of like who they're dating and stuff like that, but you don't know the ins and outs of what they're fighting about in the house and that kind of thing. So, and you're right, I think it is more shorter lived. And I think one of the big issues that I've read about over the years is really celebrities when the fame is gone, especially if you were just, on Towie or something. It's sort of like a big fall from grace where actually people don't care about you as much anymore, and also you've got to think about going back to getting a regular job. So, it's one of those things. I guess it's great while you're famous, but that sort of detox afterwards is a bit of a reality check.
Exactly. It's
Sort of
almost like
speak
coming down to reality, no pun intended. It's you get a taste of it, and then when it's taken away, that is very difficult to deal with on many different levels, both lifestyle, mental health, and as you said, where do you go from that? And your dreams almost shattered, which isn't an easy thing to deal with.
Yeah. So, whether you are a celebrity that is famous because of an art form which tends to be longer lived, or you're famous because you've gotten naked on a reality TV show, what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that celebrities have made as a publicist? Because for people that maybe don't understand, what a publicist or someone in entertainment PR does, you're the person that basically is briefing them before they go into an interview. Say this, don't say that, don't forget you've got to mention the film. I've told them they can't ask about your ex-husband, that kind of thing. And then more widely, you're advising them on what is a good career decision, what charities they might want to support, what they might want to be involved with, what things they should put their names to. So you must have had over the years people, say, thanks, Ben, but no thanks, and go and do something stupid. So what are some of the, if you don't want to give specifics, you can give general takes of what you would say to celebrities. Why on earth did you do that?
Yeah, there's almost sort of two sides to that. So when you're working with somebody on a project, so say an actor in a film, it's a very specific type of publicity. They're there to promote the film. You're there to guide what they're saying about the film, what they can't say about the film, so spoilers, protecting them from personal questions. And overall, you're more looking after the film studio's brand, for example, protecting that from any potential negative press. So those interviews are very controlled often. Yes, you brief the person before they complete the interview. But actually, when you're dealing with the producer or the journalist beforehand, you set up a lot of those parameters before the interview even takes place. What you can ask, what you can't ask. Make sure they've seen the films and what they're asking about. So there's that, and then I think what you're asking about is sort of a person in the public eye, their sort of their wider brand kind of image, their long-term PR strategy, where they foresee themselves going. Is it on the front cover of Glamour? Is it presenting on Sunday brunch? Is it so that I think is probably more what you're asking. Um, in terms of advice in that instance, I would say just be yourself, which is again a very generic answer, but be yourself in an authentic and trustworthy way. Ultimately, what keeps people relevant and famous is their fans. And the fans are a community, and communities are built on trust. So the minute you lose that trust with your audience, essentially, that's when it's going to start to sort of go a little bit downhill. And I think these days you've got nowhere to hide because of social media. You can't keep up the pretense. So I think if people see you're genuine and trustworthy, they'll buy into that. And then if you do make a mistake, depending on what the mistake is, you're more likely to be forgiven because you've been honest. You can address the situation honestly, and it's more likely to move on than if you try and cover something up, or you've lied, or you've not been yourself, authentic self. So I think that's probably the best piece of advice I'd give somebody: be your authentic self and be trustworthy.
Right. So I've got to ask you then, if being authentic is the key, do you think that the cast of Wicked have been authentic in these press interviews? They're sort of over the top, loving you, holding space, or are they playing extended versions of themselves?
I personally think it is genuine, but I think regardless of whether it is or it isn't, it has been such a good thing for the industry, the entertainment industry, and just the world in general. I think it's so common to see stories, behind the scene drama on set, cast members falling out. That's the most common story you'll see around a film or a TV release, particularly an all female cast, for example. So the fact they've literally taken that by the head, flipped it around, and they've kept up that positivity. It has sent such a lovely message, I think, and it really helped push the film. And don't forget, Wicked is targeted towards a young audience. So imagine all the young girls that will have seen these two strong, powerful women getting on, taking on the world together. What a lovely message to send out to the world at a time when who knows what is going on elsewhere. And I just think whether it is or it isn't, they've done such a fantastic job. Like, testament to them, testament to the film, the messages in the film. They've embodied the characters. I just think the world is hard enough right now. Why should we scrutinize two fabulous actresses for maybe putting something on that's only benefited the world?
No, look, I think that it's completely sort of revolutionized what people think that they can get out of that kind of press talk. 'Cause they're so boring usually, right? We were just sat there saying, "Yeah, it was really great to work with this person, and we really connected, and I can't wait for people to see the film." Whereas, how many viral clips came out of their press tours? So I think they probably raised the bar, to be fair.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And again, as you said, like, they probably were just having fun. Like, they would have spent months on that tour worldwide with each other, repeating the same interview over and over, and they put amazing. They had fun with it.
As we talked about, the sort of celebrity or fame is changing these days. It's 2025, and influencers are huge. They've been huge for a couple of years now. But, influencers are getting to write their own rules. They're not having to show up and do 3 hours of work on a film that takes forever to do the 6 months press tour, as you were talking about. They can literally just set up a camera in their living room, don't even have to be in London, or any of the big cities now, and sort of, have millions of followers from their bedroom, and they can go direct to advertisers, so they've not got to have all of this investment in a big production. So I'd love to know who you think has more power these days. Is it still the traditional A-listers, or is it more the online influencers?
Again, I think it goes back to what your goal is, because yes, influencers arguably have more power on social media. And these days you can utilize that in a lot of different ways. For example, selling on TikTok Shop. Some people are making millions of dollars a day, and that's through obviously their products being great, but also their social media following. And that is a business for some people. But I do think celebrity is something you can't buy. And I do think that probably gives them just a slight edge on that power spectrum, because and I'm generalizing here, but I would say most influencers probably want to be celebrities, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
So
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I think the power probably does still lie in celebrity, essentially.
Moving away from celebrities a little bit and talking a little bit more generally about entertainment. So, you
Hmm.
have promoted some of the biggest shows on television. So, I want to know, when you're kind of out there and thinking, oh my God, how are we going to get people to watch this new show? What are some of the most fun things that you've worked on?
Ooh, I mean, so much stuff. I won't say how long I've been working in PR because it will show my age. Um, the one I always have to say, and it's not necessarily the most fun, well, it is, but probably the most iconic is a better description, is I used to work on Celebrity Big Brother. So I did a few seasons, and I was working on the season of the David's Dead moment,
Wow.
which you still, if you turn on the TV, like for those kind of countdown shows, like top 10 most outrageous reality TV moments, like it always makes those countdowns. So obviously, whenever
It
I turn the
comes
TV on and
up
I see
every
that,
year. Every year that pops up on like my social media, like 11 years since this iconic moment or whatever it is. Like every year that is played.
yeah, exactly. So every time it comes on, it like makes me smile. So we were there. We were on set while it was happening in the press cabin, and to live that kind of 24 hours of pure chaos. Media inquiries from all over the world. Obviously, when we were living in that moment, we knew it was a hilarious clip. We knew it would obviously do quite well on TV, but I don't think anyone knew it would go as viral as it did. So I would say that purely just, yeah, because that is a piece of television history. And to sort of being there in the moment, and then also handle with my colleagues the press side of things, yeah, that's definitely a career highlight, I would say.
Yeah. So moving on, so you are a TV guy, watch my show. That's kind of what you've always been doing, but we're hearing more and more now that actually the TV viewing figures are going in one direction, that's down. People are not watching as much, certainly linear TV as they used to. And whilst you might have iconic shows like The Traitors that seem to just about get back to sort of those old viewing figures, actually you're competing for eyeballs, and eyeballs are all looking at social media these days. So what's your feeling on that? Do you think that TV is faring well against social media, or do you think it's a managed decline?
I think they come hand in hand, and I think they complement each other. I think the fact that people can go online, talk about their favorite shows, talk about shocking moments in shows, actually creates more buzz for people to watch TV. If you go on Twitter, well, X, probably the majority of what people are talking about is entertainment content and news. So I think you almost can use social media as a promotional tool. Linear TV, yes, I think obviously ratings are declining. I think that's fairly commonly known. But then look at Netflix getting hundreds of millions of views on film releases, for example. It's certainly not going away. And in my opinion, like TV is just content, and we will always consume that kind of content. The platforms will just vary and change and evolve.
Do you know what I think it is, though? I think that sort of good ideas have died in Hollywood. Like, you're seeing more and more, they're like, oh, we'll reboot this show from the 90s, which is great because we love to revisit old characters from the 90s, but almost everything is a reboot now, and almost they struggle to capture the essence of what made them unique in the 90s. Like, that first season of And Just Like That took a lot of criticism. I think, it's probably gotten better as it's gone on, as they sort of figured out what they were. But I think when they come to planning TV shows these days, they sort of still think in the old fashioned way of telling a really simple story. Whereas, I think that what really works is when you mix two things together. So, for example, there's lots of talk nowadays about AI and going to Mars. So, why couldn't you have like a 30-minute sitcom that's actually talking about, people finding love, but it's set on Mars? Or, there's AI involved. Because I think every time they do sort of like it's AI or it's set on Mars, it's dystopian, something goes wrong. Whereas like, actually, can't you mix two together? You could have the mix of the sci-fi and the thing people are talking about, but actually mix it with everyday life. And I think that merging things together is probably where we should be looking at nowadays to actually make stuff entertaining. That and retro stuff, because I love stuff set in like the 90s. But why do you think it's hard to make TV and films now that really resonate with people?
I don't think it is hard to make them. I think we're probably too overwhelmed by choice. And I think that's where people struggle. I think that there's so much content out there now. It becomes probably a bit overwhelming to sort of pick and find perhaps new shows that you love. On the reboot point as well, I don't think that is lack of originality. I think that's just a trend at the moment. It's a nostalgia trend. People are loving sort of seeing those casts back together, their favorite shows, those nostalgia moments. It's just a trend. We go through them. Look at when like sci-fi as a genre has Game of Thrones came along and it became a hugely popular genre. Look at all the sci-fi fantasy shows that came after Game of Thrones. It was a trend.
Yeah.
Look at dating shows at the moment. Love is Blind, Married at First Sight. Again, that you could group those together under a kind of umbrella or a trend. Jersey Shore, Geordie Shore, those kind of years, those kind of reality shows, Towie, Made in Chelsea, were a trend. You don't get as many of those these days. So I just think we just go through trends and life cycles, and something new will pop up. And you've probably hit the nail on the head with the Mars show. Maybe copyright it, get your producer credits in there. Because I swear I read yesterday, I think they're sending Katy Perry to Mars, or certainly space.
Yes, she is going to space, I believe. I don't know if any reality cameras will be with her. And look, I don't copyright anything anymore because, as we have talked about in previous episodes of this show, whenever I come up with a good idea, it's already been done. So if I went to copyright it, they'd be like, oh, we've already recorded 13 episodes. It's coming in April. So never mind. Anyway,
Very pessimistic.
from all of your work that you've done in the entertainment space and the publicist space, if you could rebrand a show yourself, because obviously you're not making all the decisions, but if you could rebrand a show, if you got full, you know, authority to go and rebrand a show and do it your way, what would you do?
Okay, it's not a rebrand, but stick with me here. I would just ensure that Wicked, they franchised the out of it. I want spin offs from every character. See, Alpha Bear and Glinda, their own shows. But yeah, every main character, let's give them a spin off. Let's have sequels, prequels. I want a universe. Think Marvel Cinematic Universe, that but for Wicked. That is what I would do. Purely because I'm obsessed, if you haven't guessed already. Model my lovely jumper again.
Right.
Um, that is
Well,
what I
I'm
would
sure
do.
that as
Because
well
the world
they'll have
needs it.
like a wicked world, like where you've got all the roller coasters and stuff like that. People would enjoy that, right?
Probably. I mean, I certainly would. I'd be the first one in the queue.
Well, let's move on a little bit to talk about your personal journey, because I think one thing that people don't really understand, especially in that entertainment PR space, is it is a crazy job. I mean, you're picking up celebrities from the airport in the middle of the night. You're getting up at 4 a.m. because they've got an interview at 6 a.m. and then you're with them all day. You're obviously having to deal with people that are accustomed to a certain lifestyle sometimes. So, I'm not going to ask you this, but, I'd love to know if you've ever been asked to go out and get like 10 bags of like puppies to have in the dressing room or something like that. But I'm not going to ask that.
I would love that request.
So it's a full-time job is what I'm getting at. So I'd love to know, what does work-life balance mean to you?
Yeah, it's certainly not 9 to 5, that's for sure. Both in terms of like logistics, so as you said, like events, press junkets, traveling, but then the kind of the volume of work as well. And I think you do struggle to cram it all in a day because you wrap up one junket and then you back on your laptop, emails, or organising the next. So it is very full on. I am particularly bad with work-life balance, so I'm not going to sit here and preach about something I don't practice. But I think it goes back to I love what I do. I genuinely love what I do. I appreciate that I'm very lucky to be in the position I'm in to do it. So when work does take over, ultimately I'm doing something I enjoy. So I guess I don't mind, essentially. If I was hating my life, dragging myself out of bed every morning, and then having no life, that would probably be a very different kind of situation. But I would say it isn't healthy, so I'm not kind of saying that's an ideal scenario and people should just get on with it. You do need that balance. And what I do try and do is I've got a great group of friends, so it's socializing with them, just making sure I'm constantly in touch with them. I think for me, and just make sure I make the time for them. So that's where I do sort of, if I've got plans, I will not cancel on them because of work, unless under extreme circumstances. But yeah, I don't have much of a work-life balance.
However,
I've
you don't
tried.
mind being late for them. So for people that don't know, you and I are friends, and we actually met when you were doing press for a show, and I was
Yes, yes,
invited
yes,
as one
yes.
of the guests. And I could see you at the corner of my eye, and you were just stressing out, clearly trying to make everything a success. I remember going over to you and being like, "You need to calm down. Do you want a drink?" And I think we were just friends from that moment on, because it's like, it'll be fine. Everyone's happy. No one's gonna say anything. Just chill out.
I think that I know what you're talking about. I think that week in particular, I think it was a week where we'd had 4 events, and I think that was the final or the penultimate event. So I think at that point I probably was quite frazzled. Yeah.
So, what would you say to young people trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives? What advice would you give them? Because I'm assuming when you grew up, you probably didn't say, "Well, I want to work in entertainment PR." So, how did you find it, and how did you find out what you wanted to do with your life? And what would you tell young people that are kind of trying to figure out what on earth they want to do?
So weirdly, I actually did. So when I was about 16, I knew I wanted to work in publicity.
Right.
I then went on to study PR as my degree, and then luckily did my placement year at BBC. And then I stayed in sort of television publicity ever since I graduated. So again, very lucky, A, to know what I wanted to do, and then B, to kind of still be working in it now. But if people are unsure, I guess just try a few different things out, because that's the only way really you're going to sort of find something you do enjoy and land on it. Even now, sort of publicity is my bread and butter. It's what I love doing. It's obviously what I've got experience in. But I've been doing a bit more in the marketing space recently, just to sort of hone those skills a little bit. Just again, see if that is something I also enjoy doing as an extension. So just try different things until you land on something that you feel passionate enough about, or you like doing, or you're getting something from it to kind of stick in that lane, I guess, so to speak.
So, what is one life hack that you've picked up through all these years of PR and publicist life that you still use?
So going back to our previous conversation, one is definitely don't be late, although how much I apply that to my daily life, I do try. It's never intentional. Like when you're managing like a press schedule or an event schedule, people being late throws that schedule and all the hard work that went into that schedule completely out of the window. So, and it is quite frustrating, and people do have genuine reasons. They might have had a wardrobe malfunction, which is fine. They're not going to go on camera with half an outfit on, for example. So things happen, and obviously you do factor that in. But if someone's just generally late, they'd like, so you often meet down in the lobby, then get in the car, and then go to the venue. They're coming down half an hour late. It just isn't a good look, and it is quite frustrating and looks slightly unprofessional. So I definitely think that has taught me that punctuality is a great look. Be punctual. But in terms of one that I probably practice a little bit more, I think confidence. Just seeing how they can hold themselves, particularly in large event settings, for example. Almost, I guess you would say, like turning on the charm, being sociable, and not letting it phase you. Is something I guess that is admirable, and something that comes over. I guess it comes over time with experience as well.
Well, it's interesting how many celebrities you hear about say that they're not actually natural born extroverts. I was watching a Joan Rivers documentary recently, and she was saying like people expect me to be the life of the party because of how I am on television, on stage. She's like, but I'm actually really shy. Like I'm the person at a party that will be, I'll just stand by myself in the corner and wait for someone to come and talk to me. I'm not going to go over to someone. So I think that it's really quite interesting, because I guess you're in an industry where you can't just hide away. I mean, have you ever kind of dealt with any celebrities where they say, look, I'm just not a natural born extrovert. I don't want to go and be the life of the party? Or is that where they sort of rely on you to go and introduce them to everyone and to basically make it all work for them?
Yeah, definitely. It's more common than you think, and especially I would say probably with actors. Again, sort of influencers, reality stars, presenters, due to the nature of what they do, are probably a bit more comfortable in those settings. Whereas actors, some actors just want to do the acting job, and yes, they do have to do the PR around it, but it isn't necessarily something they enjoy. One of the more common things is doing live interviews. The amount of people I've come across that get nervous doing them. So you just forget that they're real people, and I think playing a character in a TV series is very different to having to go and network in a room full of hundreds of people that you've never met before. The two don't sort of come hand in hand necessarily.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you have to remind yourself of that. I can't remember what I was doing the other day, but I've had it recently where I think there was a TV interview, someone coming up, or someone was going on TV, or maybe they were doing a podcast. And I was just like, well, you just do this and that's fine. And it was kind of like this whole, but that's terrifying. And it was almost like because I'm doing it so regularly, I forgot that, oh my God, yeah, it is terrifying to do that the first time. You almost think, oh my God, okay, let me walk you through it, let me
Yeah.
help. Or the other day, someone called me and they were doing their first panel discussion. They wanted to sort of run through. So we had like a big role play of like what the panel might be like for them. So yeah, I mean, those things are terrifying. Even, I would say with myself, I'm on TV most weeks. I do a couple of podcasts. I'll do in-person events. But I wouldn't say I'm the life of the party. I definitely, once you're in, those big networking rooms you get
Hmm.
at parties,
Yeah.
like, I definitely am like, I'll stick by who I know. I'm not going to go over and introduce myself to someone that I sort of, because you sort of meet people that you've maybe met online or, you sort of know through their work. But I still am like, oh my God, even though he likes my holiday photos, I'm not going to go up and say hello. You
Exactly.
can come
It's just
over
a
to
very.
me.
It's not like it's not unnatural, but it's a situation you've been forced into. Essentially, not forced into, but maybe you wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily wake up and choose and go and do. You're doing it because of work purposes, essentially. Whether you're promoting something, whether you're networking, whether you're yeah, having the ability to not let the sort of anxiety overcome you, have that internal confidence. I think is definitely a skill,
And to be
and
honest, I
something will
always
come
think
over
in those
time.
situations, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to walk up to someone and say, "Hello, I'm Lewis," and they're going to say, "Get out of here!" Like
I know, but
you're not
it's a
good enough
natural
to stand
reaction,
by
isn't it?
me.
But also, it goes
Yeah,
back
that's
down
true.
to people are worried about how people perceive you. Ultimately, that's what it boils down to.
That's true. Ben, this has been a fantastic discussion. Thank you so much for making the time. If anyone needs your services as a publicist or entertainment PR extraordinaire, where can they find you?
Have a little look on something called LinkedIn. You may have heard of it. Just yeah, search for my name, you'll find me, and yeah, we'd love to connect.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. I won't be late next time, I promise.